just that, like if you're going to buy a ticket and you're just the last one in line, you're just last. So, but now let's see if you can remember. What number were you? Oh, good remembering. What number were you? What number were you? I remember hers for some reason. She was 13. What number were you? Remember? Does anyone remember?
13.
She was, I think she was 13, so I think she was 14. And you, oh, you were 14, and you were 15. Oh, that is too much to remember. Do you remember what number you were?
5.
Good. We use numbers, are so exciting. Sometimes you use numbers to tell about yourself. So, do you have a lunch number that you have to give a lunch lady? That tells who you are. You have a lunch number. You use a number for your name. You could say, my name is 382. Numbers are so exciting. They tell us lots and lots of stuff. So I brought some stuff to show you today because you know how I love to have stuff in a bag. Sometimes numbers tell us the time. Do you know how many numbers are on a clock or a watch? 12 numbers. And they're in a circle, aren't they? If this is a watch. What's the difference between a watch and a clock?
The watch is small.
The watch is smaller and
You can wear it on your wrist.
and you can wear it on your wrist. And what else?
The clock's bigger.
The clock's bigger and it's this one has holes in it and a big clock on the wall doesn't. Sometimes we have clocks that just have numbers. They don't have a face on it or a dial. This part of the watch is called the face. And that front part of the clock is called the face. And these are called what? No? Hands. These little things that go around are called hands. So that's really interesting. Can you tell me some other way you use time and numbers? How about if your mom's baking something? Does she use time and numbers? How?
If you have an oven, there's like a little spot, and it doesn't have nothing, just numbers, and then it comes down.
Right. Have you ever seen, let's pretend like we're turning the dial. It's called a dial on the oven. A dial. And if you're going to bake cookies, you're going to turn that dial to 325 degrees. That's going to tell you how hot the oven is. Here we go. 325 degrees. Now, if you're going to bake cookies, you're also going to set a timer. You're going to put the cookies in the oven, and you're going to cook the cookies for how long? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So now you have another button. Sometimes you have to push a button for a timer, sometimes you have to turn a button. Which will we pretend? Buttons or dial? Buttons. Okay. 10 minutes. And then when our cookies are done, what's going to happen in 10 minutes?
You can eat it. It's going to beep.
It's going to go beep, 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 beep. There the cookies are. Okay? What's that thing we turn with a 325? A dial. And what do those numbers tell us? What do they tell us? How hot or what the temperature. That was one of the words. And what does our timer tell us, Sadie?
How many minutes are there?
How many minutes we have to cook. Okay, and so we use our timer has buttons. When you look around your house, you are going to see numbers everywhere. They are so exciting. Look what I found in my house.
Oh!
You know what that is? And look, and what is his number?
4.
His number is number 4. And then that way you know that he's number 4. Look at, here's Michael Vick. He's number 7. Ooh. Brett Favre, number 4. There we go. Woo. And this shirt, This shirt that he's wearing, it's called, it has a special name. A jersey. Say that, that's a fun one.
Jersey.
Oh, I love J's too. I love Z's, but I love J's. Jersey. Can you feel it in your mouth?
Jersey.
Yep. Yep, and that's correct, Farrell. Number 4. Let's see what else I have with numbers. Now, sometimes when you're going on the road, you have to use a map. So I brought a map for you guys to look at today. This is a map of Burnett County. Let's see if I can find Grant. And here's Grantsburg right here.
That's where I live.
That's where you live. Look.
In the nose.
Right there in the nose. I'm going to show you a picture of Wisconsin. This is a map picture of Wisconsin. We all live. That's where we live in Wisconsin. And this is our county, Burnett County. So this is a big picture of the state.
Why did they say a word on it? Try saying that feels good on your lips.
Oh, he likes, listen. I bet you guys can even spell map. That's right. Okay, but now look, when you're driving down the road, you'll see numbers. Do you know where Highway 70 is? Has anyone ever talked to you about it? That is a cool number. Highway 70. If you're going to go to Siren, you have to get on
Highway 70.
So let's see. Look, if you look at this map, here's Highway 70. You can go all the way to Alpha and Fallen, and then over here you go to Siren. Now, this is where Miss Jill lives. She lives in Cushy. So you have to get on 87. Do you know where 87 is?
No.
Yep, you have to go. You have to go south. So here's my road, 87. And if you're driving down the road, you'll see a number. Numbers tell us everything. There'll be a sign on there, and it will say Highway 70. So you don't get lost. What road do you live on? Does anyone know their address? Oh, and she knows her. Do you live on what road? Fair Road? Yeah.
Ferry Road.
Oh, Ferry Road. North Road. Yeah. Wisconsin Road. But you also have a number, a fire number. Have you ever seen that red sign? I put my fire number on an iPad. I'm going to leave it so you'll see it. But a fire number is what, like, so if the firemen, if your house happened to be on fire, they could punch in your fire number and they would know exactly where your house was. But it's also our address. I wrote, let's see if I can find it. I wrote Mrs. Rango's address on this envelope. And it doesn't have a fire number here, because I wrote the school address. So this is, look at all the numbers in the address. If I put this in the mail in Cushing, I put Word Lady and I put my address up here. This is my fire number. You know those red numbers in front of your house? That's my address, 2395 250th Avenue. That's my address. Now this is Mrs. Rango's address at the school. It says Mrs. Rango, Grantsburg Elementary School. Here's her numbers here at the school. 475 East James Street. That's her address. And then a zip code tells what city. When the postman looks at this, he doesn't even have to look at this. He knows what number. It's called a zip code. There's Miss Jill's favorite.
Z word.
Z word. You say that word. Zip code. Isn't that a cool word? I bet you can spell zip. A zip code. And this is your zip code here in Grantsburg. 54840. And it has an address, and it's really important. It tells us lots of things. It tells a postman who this letter is going to. And it wouldn't get there without numbers. Numbers tell and tell and tell.
Tell where you're going.
They do. Let's see. Sometimes you might do you know what this book is? What is it?
It's the book when you know the address.
Look at this.
That's the phone.
This is a
phone.
It's
Phone book.
what a cool name for that. Phone book. Because guess what's in here?
It shows all the
Phone numbers. Phone numbers in the phone book. So if you want to find somebody's phone number, you just look up their name. I'm going to leave this phone book. You might look through here and find somebody's name you know. Okay, you can find my name in here. Lots of, but that's pretty cool because the phone book also gives you lots of important things. Oh, look at here's the sports schedule. It tells us when we're going to play ball. Here's a map. Lots of maps in there. There's a map of Polk County. There's some information. Lots of numbers in the phone book. Even a calendar. That's an important number. How cool is that? Now, sometimes numbers tell us. You see if you can figure it out on this page.
There's numbers to tell you how much it is.
To tell you how much things cost. You do? So numbers tell us a lot of times how much things cost. I thought that was an important thing. Here's one that's not so fun. Groceries. Let's see. Well, you can buy a pie for $3.99. Or let's see what else you can buy.
I got that much money. I got over $14.
Ooh, let's see what else you can buy. Or you can buy some tomatoes for $2.49 a pound. So if you were going to go to the store and buy a tomato, there would be a thing called a scale. And I put one on my iPad so you'll see a scale. Because Miss Jill went to the store yesterday and she weighed 5 pounds of carrots. So you'll see you have to take your tomatoes and you put them in a scale and then numbers go and tell you, oh, you have 1 pound of carrots. So you have to pay $2.49. But if you got 2 pounds of carrots, your bill would be $4.98. Numbers tell us all.
How much if it was 5?
5 pounds of carrot, you would have to pay 5 times $2.49. Now I brought another catalog just so you can look at the numbers. Now let's see, I have so much stuff in here today. I promised Mrs. Rango I wasn't going to have so much stuff. But now we talked about numbers on our recipe cups. So I thought you would like to see a cookbook. Do you ever see a cookbook? And look at all the numbers in this cookbook. Oh my gosh.
Let's see how much of everything you need.
Yeah, how much of everything you need. Yep.
This is helping.
I know, all of these recipes are soups. And I thought you would like to look in there. Because sometimes it tells you, remember how we talked about a teaspoon? That's that little spoon and all those spoons that were connected together. There, you'll see them again. And this also tells you how long you have to cook it. So if you were going to do your timer, we tell you what the temperature should be and how long you have to cook it. Let's see. And I brought this so you could see all the numbers on this. This is oh, me too. It's my favorite. And guess what this name is? You'll love this word. Funfetti. Say that word. I think because there's a word called confetti, and it has colors, so I think they just wanted to make it
That's what I was thinking. Confetti.
Yeah. Now look at, I'm going to leave this so you can look back here and you'll see all the numbers. There's lots of numbers. To make this recipe, you have to have 1 cup of water, 1/3 of a cup of oil, and 3 eggs. There's numbers right there. You have to take your dial and turn it to 350 degrees. That's how hot it's going to be. And then you have to cook it for 34 minutes. So you cannot cook this cake without, or bake that cake without numbers. Now everybody knows this numbers. A remote control.
It goes up to 9.
It goes up to, yep, it does.
But you can make numbers with it.
You can make numbers. Like if I wanted to go make 900. If I wanted to do 99, what would I do?
Put 9.
9 twice. Yeah, that sounds good. Sometimes you don't even have to use the numbers. You can just use these little buttons and they make the numbers go up or down.
Sometimes when I don't want to use the air, sometimes I just and I want to get SpongeBob. I just do 300 and see if it's on. If it's not on,
That's right.
I go down.
29.
Now, I brought this book because there are lots of numbers in books.
58 is.
There are lots of numbers in books. Look at this. This is called the Table of Contents. You guys all probably have learned about that, haven't you? And look, it says Chapter 1, the beginning. And then if you look over here, you can see that that's on page 5. And then guess what these numbers down here are
Tell
called?
me what page you're on.
It tells you what page they're on. Those are called page numbers. Who could think? Page numbers. That's pretty cool. Does anyone know what this is? A CD. Yep. And if you wanted, this is a band called the Little River Band. And if you wanted to play a song called Lady, you would have to click to number 11. You can't do anything without using numbers. Numbers are such cool words.
I got something. Did you look at guess what you can do?
What?
You really don't need to click anything because you really just need to click the down or the up.
Ah,
That's a tape measure.
this is a tape measure.
My dad has
And look what's on there.
numbers.
It can tell you how far it goes.
And I saw Miss Billy had a ruler on her desk. That's a short measuring tool. And this is if you wanted to measure a really long, this one can go 12 feet. It can measure from the ceiling all the way down to the floor. It's called a tape measure. And it's really important. It's a really important tool.
Yesterday, me and my dad and my mom and my sister and my brother was taking a nap. We all built a porch in the back.
And did you use a tape measure with numbers? Yeah, when you're building, you have to measure like this, and then you have to mark and say, oh, I need a board that's 14 inches long. So you have to measure. So I thought that would be a fun thing for you to look at.
Oh, we should make
Oh, and I brought some money, because you can't talk about, we already talked about what things cost. When you see a quarter, you know that that's worth how much? 25 cents. So if you're thinking, it has two names. Sometimes you say quarter, and sometimes you say 25 cents. A 25 cents. Sometimes you say a what? A nickel, or you can say 5 cents. It has two names. Sometimes you say a dime or 10 cents. And sometimes you say a penny or
1 cent.
it has two names. Mr. Loster said. You know, I thought this was important. This is a receipt.
I got a receipt.
You have a receipt? And when you go to the store, they'll put all your items in a cash register. They'll put all your items in a cash register, and then they'll give you.
My dad got registered outside.
Yeah, this is a receipt, and it tells you what you bought. Yeah, we have so much to talk about. Now this is an interesting one. Now,
Carton.
it is an egg carton, but it has another name. Let's count to see how many eggs you would buy. You help me out. 1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Now, do another name for 12? It starts with a D. I'm going to give you, and it has my favorite sound in the middle.
Dozen.
A dozen. Let's say that 3 times so we remember.
A dozen.
Would you rather have a dozen pieces of bubble gum or 6?
A dozen.
A dozen. So sometimes it has 2 names too. You could say 12, but sometimes we just say, oh, I'll have a dozen eggs. But have you ever heard your mom say, I need a dozen eggs?
I guess.
And that's 12, a dozen. Now, I brought this guy because he was the only one I could find big enough so you could look at it. Our Bob, he's a Hunchback of Notre Dame, isn't he?
Yeah, I watched that movie.
Oh, you did?
I watched 1 and 2.
Cool. He said 1 and 2. Do you know what that means? There's 2 movies. There's the first one and the second one. He watched 1 and 2.
I watched
Now, our body has lots of numbers. Can anybody think of some numbers that you could think of body parts? How many ears do you have? 2 ears. How many toes do you have? 2 toes? You have 2 feet. How many toes? 10 toes. How many fingers do you have? 10 fingers. How many elbows do you have? 2. How many noses? 1. Okay. Ears?
2.
2. And now, I don't even know. I remember how many teeth you have.
What does it?
No more than that. We'll have to count those. When you go home, count your teeth, okay? And then come back and tell us how many teeth you have.
I lost.
You lost it too, so you're 1 short. But anyway, we have lots of body parts that we can think of with your body. But, so sometimes I'm going to show you, do you know what the word
I got 15.
Our body parts usually come in pairs. That means that there's 2. Say that word pair. Pair.
I got 26.
Like you have a pair of eyes. You have a pair of eyes and a pair of ears and a pair of hands and a pair of legs and a pair of feet. Now, sometimes we use that because we say, oh, I'm going to buy a pair of gloves. How many are you going to buy? 2. If you're going to buy what do you say? A pair of glasses because they're covering your 2 eyes. A pair of glasses. How about if you put a pair of earmuffs on? Because it covers 2. So when you hear that word, how about a pair of shoes? How many shoes are there? 2 shoes. A pair of shoes. A pair. So that's kind of a fun word to know. Is pair. Asher, did you give everybody at your table a bag? Give everybody a bag. Give everybody a bag. We're going to do this real fast, and we're going to just play a game. What's the numbers? Open your bag, and I'm going to give you many marshmallows. You know that word, many? Open your bag, and I'm going to give you many. Oh yeah, many means small. This is many. I'm going to give you many marshmallows. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a good one. Whoops.
Look at
Now, don't eat them yet. You can eat them later. Oh, whoops, one fell on the floor. many marshmallows do you have in your bag?
I wrote happy birthday.
If you don't know how to count them, you know what you can say? You can use this word, many. I'm going to ask you.
I want to count.
They're gonna get
All right, now I want you to listen just a little bit. I know it's kind of exciting. Now this, your right hand, everybody put your right hand over here. This is going to be your count hand, okay? So you're gonna take things out of your right hand over here. Look at Miss Jo. Your right hand, that's going to be your count hand, okay? So I'm going to give you a number, and I want you to put that many in your count hand, okay? Okay. Now I want you to put none in your count hand. How many is none?
Nothing.
Nothing. And it's like 0. None. None. All right. Now in your count hand, I want you to put 1. 1. I tried to think of another word for 1. I don't think there's another word for 1.
Single?
Oh, you are so smart. Single. A single one. Just one. That is I want to remember that forever. Only. 2 words. Only and only. Like only. You're the only one. Or alone maybe would be a good one. Alone would be one. No. Single. Individual. Oh, that's a good word. Let's say that one.
Individual.
Let's clap it. Individual. Wow, that's a long word. That means, now we know it means 1. Now, in your count hand, I want you to put 2. 2. Put 2 in your count hand. Now, sometimes 2, we just learned that new word for 2. What is it? A pair. We learned that that's a pair. You have a pair of marshmallows in your hand. 2 marshmallows. Can anyone think of another word for together? Would be 2 together. How about this one? A couple.
Yeah, that's cool. It's just 2.
A couple is 2. If you say, tell your mom, can I have a cookie? And she say, yeah, you can have a couple. How many cookies can you have? 2. How about if she said you can have a pair of cookies? How many do you get? 2. Apart? Yeah, that means that they're not together. They're away from each other. 2 could be apart. Now, you have a couple. Now this is another word. How about the word few? How many is a few?
3. It means 3 or 2.
It can mean like, it just means not very many. So it could be 2 or 3. So that's a good word. So put a few marshmallows in your count hand. You get to decide how many you want. A few. Yeah, 4 can be a few. If you had $2 million and you gave somebody $4, you just gave them a few dollars. So it kind of depends on how many you're talking about. Yeah, that can be a few. Oh, yeah. Sometimes we use a word a little. Like if your mom said, you said, can I have some popcorn before supper? Your mom might say, oh, you can have a little bit. So how much does she think you can have? Not a lot, but just a little.
About 5?
Now listen, this word, I don't know if you know this word or not, but it's the word several.
That means 7 things.
Several. How many is, put several things, you might have to use 2 hands. Several's quite a few. Several.
That's only 7.
It doesn't have to be 7, it can be 7, it just means,
It can be 1.
It means almost.
What about 9? What
It's,
about 9?
it doesn't really mean a certain number. It just means an amount. Like if your mom said, how many kids were at school? And you'd say, oh, there's several kids at school. So there's, yeah, it can mean that there's, it can mean a number, but it just means a
Close
number.
to 7.
Maybe. But sometimes it depends. Those are numbers that are kind of floating numbers. It kind of depends on what you're talking about. Like if you saw a million geese sitting in the water, and your dad said, how many flew away? And you said, oh, several of them flew away. It might be 25, because that's just a piece of that thousands of pieces. Several. How about many? Put many marshmallows in your countdown. Many, many, many. Many, many, many. Yeah. Sometimes we use the word much too. Many, 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 or the word much. Numbers sure are interesting, aren't they? Now there's another. Now just put three in one hand and many in the other one. Oh. Now, which hand do you have the most?
The other hand, not your hand.
Right. The one that has many, it has the most, doesn't it? And the one that has a few just has least, doesn't it? That's it. Say that word, because that's really an important math word. Most and least. Those are important math words. Most and least. Most and least, yeah. All right, I think you've worked so hard you can taste some marshmallows. I think, oh yeah, he said some. How many are you going to taste? 2 or 3. I just have one more thing before I go. Sometimes we want to talk about more than one thing. So if you were going to say 1 dog and 2, what would you say?
Cat.
No, 1 dog, 2 dogs. 1 cat, 3. What would you do to that word to make it know that you're talking about more than one? What letter would you add on the end? Add an S on the end of words. 1 chair, 2 chairs. 1 boy, 2 boys. We just add an S on the end. 1 computer, 2 computers. Did you feel that S on the end of your, you add an S if you're talking about more than one. Let's see. 1 letter, many letters. What did you add on the end of that word? An S. An S. Tells us lots of things. Like you say, 1 horse, many. 1 puppy, many. Puppies, you add an S. But there's some tricky words out there, and we're just going to do a couple. This is a woman. And if you have 2, you say women. It changed, the whole word changes. 1 woman, 2 women. You guys already knew that. How about this? 1 man, 2
Men.
men. Sometimes the whole word changes. 1 child,
2 child.
children. 1 child, 2 children. How about this one? 1 foot, 2 feet. 2 feet. How about this one? 1, 2, 3 teeth. So everyone say that. Teeth. Okay. Let's one is really tricky, and I'm just going to show you because you guys are so smart. Some words are really tricky. You do not, their name does not change. Do you know that? You do not say fishes.
Fish.
You just say fish. It just, aren't words cool? They always can surprise you.
And they never change.
My dad caught one fish. My dad caught many fish. You don't, it doesn't change. You just always say, how many fish are in that tank? What do you say? Two fish. We don't say fishes. How fun is that? And this is the same way with sheep. You don't say sheeps.
You
It's
say
the sheep.
sheep.
One sheep, 5.
Sheep.
That's very cool. All right. Well, it's time for me to go. I'm going to leave you lots of stuff to think about again today.